Okay, let's find equations of lines that are perpendicular to each other. And remember, perpendicular lines look like this, and they form four right angles, and they have opposite reciprocal slopes. So like this is a 3/5 slope, this would be a negative 5/3 slope. Okay, opposite, one's positive, one is negative, and then reciprocals of each other. The only thing that wouldn't be like reciprocals are when you get horizontal and vertical lines, and hopefully it's obvious that those are perpendicular anyways. So let's do a couple examples. So let's take a point on a grid, so let's say 5 comma 3, and let's take an equation, y equals 2x plus 1. Okay, so this looks something like that. And I want the perpendicular line that goes through the point 5 comma 3. So like 5 comma 3 is over here somewhere, there. And I want to find that pink line. I want to find the equation of it. Well, we know how to find the equation of a line. I need a slope and I need a point. Okay, so for this particular one, I know I want a slope that's opposite reciprocal to that one. So if that one is 2, then this one is negative 1 over 2, and I'm going to use the point 5 comma 3. Okay, I'm going to use y equals mx plus b. I'm going to plug in my y value of 3, my slope of negative half, my x value of 5, and I'm going to find b. So this is 3 equals negative 5 halves plus b, and I'm going to add 5 halves to the other side. 3 is really 6 halves, right? 6 halves plus 5 halves is 11 halves, so b is 11 halves, or as a decimal it would be 5.5, right? 2.5 plus 3. And so then the equation of this pink line has a slope of negative 1/2 x, or sorry, slope of negative 1/2. So then the equation is y equals negative 1/2 x plus 11 halves. Okay, so this line is perpendicular to this line, and it goes through this point. And again, you can kind of do any of those things you want. I can give you any, like I said, I can give you any point I want. I can give you 4 comma 5, and I can give you a, let's say a 2y minus 5x equals to 16, that line. Let's find out this slope first. So let's solve it for y. There you go. Let's divide by 2. 5 halves x plus 8. Okay, so the black equation, the original line, has a slope of 5 halves. So then if we want to find something perpendicular, we need to use a slope of negative 2/5. And then we do want it to go through that point, 4, 5. Okay, so let's go through this. Y equals mx plus b. Put in our y value of 5, our slope of negative 2/5, our x value of 4, and find b. Okay, so we got that. So this is 5 equals negative 8/5 plus b. 5 plus 8/5 equals b. Again, 5/5, or 5 is the same thing as 25/5. 25/5 plus 8/5 is 33/5. So then our equation is going to be negative 2/5 x plus, we said what? 33/5. Okay, and again, this line is perpendicular to this line because they have opposite reciprocal slopes, and then this line goes through this point because I built the equation using x value of 4 and a y value of 5. Maybe the only other thing to decide, you could decide if two lines are perpendicular. Right, that's another question they might like to ask. And so they could give you something like this. can give you another one. And say, are those two lines perpendicular? And you'd be like, no, they're not perpendicular. And how do you know that? Well, you could show that they don't have opposite reciprocal slopes. If you solved for this slope, you would subtract over that 4, and then you would divide everything by -5, so you'd get 4/5 x minus 2. This slope and this slope are not opposite reciprocals, so they're not parallel. Not parallel. Why? Because they don't have opposite reciprocal slopes. Okay, so those are probably some of the main questions that you want to really look to look at. We certainly in class already kind of probably talked about that perpendicular slopes do in fact have opposite reciprocal slopes. That is something that you can experiment with on Desmos if you want, but that is a fact you now know. If I give you a point and a line and you want to construct the perpendicular line, you have to use the opposite reciprocal slope and the point and go through the same process. If I give you something in standard form, you're not really sure, again, find its slope, then do the opposite reciprocal, then go through the process. Deciding if two given lines are in fact perpendicular is just deciding whether the slopes are opposite reciprocals. If they're not opposite reciprocals, they're not perpendicular. You can say, well, are these lines parallel? Well, no, they're not parallel because parallel lines have the same slope. These are just two random intersecting lines that don't have really any interesting properties. Okay, so hopefully this explains a little bit on how to find perpendicular lines.